is the readiness for life after high school, the student attainment of industry-recognized certifications. Okay, so some questions that people ask me, whether it be on the street or sometimes in business meetings, that I thought you might be interested as a board, is so how many of our kids in Tacoma, how big is our influence in CTE? And so we ran the numbers looking at our new data dashboard that our DART team put together. Right now, on any given day, at the high school level, it's right around 60% of our kids are taking one or more classes. Some of them, of course, take more than one, but it's typically around there. Most of our high schools are on a 6-period day. Middle school, we're right around 50%. So middle schools typically have fewer electives, and little reminders, middle schools for career and technical education is reserved for 7th and 8th grade as a state mandate. 6th graders are not eligible. When we talk about the industry recognized certifications, we have a whole portfolio of them. Ones that tend to be achieved more than others would be the food handlers permit, because we do have commercial culinary at all 5 of our comprehensive high schools, known as the Pro Start program, as well as Oakland High School. The Microsoft IT Academy, now called the Microsoft Imagine Academy, we have at our 5 comprehensive high schools, so students are earning certificates in Word and Excel and PowerPoint, tend to be the most popular. And then OSHA 10, which is the Safety and Health Administration, it's a 10-hour certification that is basically industry standard, primarily skilled technical trades, construction, and things of that nature. So those tend to be our 3 most commonly attained certifications at the high school level. Something that people would ask me is what separates basic education from CTE? And along with the engaging relevant curriculums, there's the industry standards. So we are aligned with the math standards, we're aligned with the English language arts, next generation science standards. But if you take the industry standards that are specific of the content and then link that with the student leadership, which some people refer to as soft skills, we like to be very purposeful. We call them leadership skills or essential skills. That's really a focus of career and technical education. Why is registered youth apprenticeship important, or all the hype? Because we're getting quite a bit of press on that. And then where that comes from is really the board of directors really giving us permission, supporting us in being able to partner with OSPI and with AJAC to launch that 2 years ago. So we were one of the first in the state. We've since grown it to, I'll tell a little bit more about the story, to 3 more this year. But what's unique about registered youth apprenticeship is it's registered with Washington State Laborers and Industry, which means that a 16 and 17-year-old student can access a comprehensive training program. Typically, the employers will ask, what can you do with a 16 or 17-year-old? Sweep floors or empty waste baskets. If they're registered with LNI, they can have a comprehensive training plan. So we have students that are gainfully employed in advanced manufacturing, operating 5-axis machines on the shop floor with engineers, production managers, and machinists. So it's a viable, energized. I get inspired when I listen to the kids, just listening to the skill sets that they're developing. So it opens access to a comprehensive training program, 2,000 hours of paid employment, and articulated for college credit, as well as with adult apprenticeships. And then where are we headed for Tacoma CTE? It's really about the partnerships in our community and the region that lead to in-demand career opportunities for our kids. And that's the trends that we're trying to shift towards is what we're calling customized career pathways, more customized not only for the kids, but our actual industry partners that are coming to the plate. I'm one of those guys here. I'm wearing a little bit of silver tonight. It's called the silver tsunami, that the aging workforce we talked about for the last 30 years is actually happening. And the economy in the Northwest is so strong that we have employers coming to the high schools wanting to have access to 18-year-olds when they're graduating. That's a trend that I haven't seen in my career. I'm seeing more of that each year. Okay, for time purposes, I need to keep moving along here. When we do our budgeting priority process that's approved by the board, we prioritize for the IRC's industry recognized certifications, get into the in-demand pathways, our comprehensive career guidance programs at each of our comprehensive high schools. We are really expanding into the learning opportunities. I'll show you another slide on that. Where our professional development is with our teacher and some of our technology upgrades. Here's a quick slide off of the district's dashboard that is open to the public to see. It's a measure of how many of our students are graduating with 1 or more industry recognized certifications. So I apologize, I don't have the current information on there for this year, but the trend has been for the last 2 years. It continues to increase for our seniors. In-demand pathways that we're really focusing on. I hope you see this reflected in our work. and that would be our computer sciences. You have supported us with the laptops to kids, which is now called technology for kids, as we expand more to desktops, but we have more than just laptops for kids. But we're working into cybersecurity is another area that we're working into. Healthcare careers, you've heard from our superintendent and partners in Multicare and CHI Franciscan and others about the Healthcare Careers Academy at Stadium High School that's being expanded for kids and student access across the district. Skilled technical trades is where you're seeing some of our registered youth apprenticeship with the AJAC Advanced Manufacturing, going into Titus Will Ford for auto service technician, IDX for cabinet production assembler. And then environmental services is one that's under development right now with the city of Tacoma, where they're bringing some funds to the table for our kids to have a summer experience to earn certifications and also hopefully some compensated work experience this summer. Our guidance programs, comprehensive guidance, we have the career counselor, we staff one full-time career counselor at each of the comprehensive high schools. High School Beyond Plan is a state mandate. We've done it for years here in Tacoma, but the mandate now shifts it down to 7th grade. To start that 7th grade, culminates in 12th grade. Each of our grade levels has completion standards that we run reports out. They range anywhere from asset mapping, surveys, what you might be good at, research papers, do further research into possible careers, do some uploads. That's kind of where it lands. Of course, senior year is a mandate now with the state that they complete an employment resume as part of their application materials when they leave the school system. And then Career Cruising is our electronic platform for how we do our High School Beyond plan. Something I think you'd want to know more about is our expanded learning activities, and think about some of the MOUs that you've approved over the years, where they are now. What we offer for after school, the extended day, each of our CTE teachers has some type of a club activity after school. It's either nationally recognized or a local equivalent, but that's an expectation of OSPI. We have the Next Move internship, which continues to go across the city and build partnerships. The whole range of the 16 career clusters, 72 career pathways, of just getting kids connected with a network of business. And then cooperative work experiences, paid work experience, kids earn credit, they earn experience at the same time. The extended year, some of us refer to that as summer school. Summer Job 253, you recognize that. This will be our 6th year in that program. Registered Youth Apprenticeship as we expand it out. You recognize Tacoma Tide Flats, this will be year 4 this summer. The Nursing Assistant, CNA, this will be year 3 where kids earn their Certified Nursing Assistant. They test with the state of Washington. Wildland Fire, we got it off the ground last summer. We're actually tonight, we're running a cohort right now as we listen to business partners. We needed to move it up so our 18-year-olds will have access to opportunities to do wildland firefighting as employment when they graduate. So we've listened to our employers, moved the training up early in the school year, and then the environmental services I talked about in the state of Tacoma. Professional development, we have the 6 hours of time to work this year. Here's how we broke it down. Curriculum development, student leadership, the industry recognized certifications, incident prevention program. Some people call that the safety program or accident prevention. We go with the word incident because we want to head it off before it becomes an accident. That's how we broke our 6 hours down for the year, okay? And some of our technology, so CTE is working in collaboration with our technology department to deploy our Windows 10. We're about midway through that. We always have summer upgrades because our CTE software is a little bit demanding on a typical basic ed type of a hardware platform. And what we seek to do is provide technology-rich learning experiences for all of our kids. So I listed a few of the software packages we use. It was designed, you can see through AutoCAD, Rhino, Adobe are common in our high schools. The Microsoft Imagine Academy I mentioned earlier. See a little bit of the Lego Mindstorm. Middle school is a lot about STEM. It's about visual arts and robotics and high school programming. And you saw a little bit probably in the news about our Oakland program with the drone program of unmanned small aircraft systems. Okay, I already talked about registered youth apprenticeship. I just want to really shout out to our partners that along with AJAC that helped us get started 3 years ago. Titus Will is with us. We have students placed there. Production Cabinet Assemblers, IDX, and we have 2 kids going over to PL to their shop over there. And then Prep Cook is our partner in Pacific Grill. Right now, the one we're working on right now is the computer technician. Again, that's the 2,000 hours. It's registered with LMI, articulated for college credit, and then for adult apprenticeships. And I think that's it. When I started my slide and I asked for our annual approval, You've been supportive all along, and I can't tell you how much it means to myself and our staff in career technical education. And so that's I report for the night to the superintendent.
Thank you, John.
Okay. If I might make a couple of comments. I've served on the CTE committee now for almost 4 years, and every time I go to a meeting, there's something new. And this is probably one of the most dynamic departments that we have here in the district in terms of just constantly coming up with new ideas and new concepts and outreach in the community and opportunity for our kids. And the Ajax program, I happened to be there when that was rolled out, and the governor was there, and we were the first school district in the state to actually receive that certification for our 16 and 17, 18-year-old kids to actually be employed in a program that Elle and I had said, no, you can't do until you are 18 years old. And a number of those kids are now placed in jobs and so on. And I'm looking forward to the environmental program that just by happenstance, I referred you to the young woman that runs the Enviro Challenger program really wanted to get involved. And the city said, yeah, we want to go too. And so that's going to be part of a new program for part of the environmental services, so kids will have opportunities for certifications in certain areas in the environmental program. So that's exciting, but I just think that we are extremely fortunate to have John and his staff, and I think you've got some kind of a little competition thing going there. Every time we go to have the CTE committee, somebody is competing with somebody else there about getting a new program started. So keep up the good work, John, and thank you for your commitment to our kids.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
A question real quick. One more question?
Sure.
Thanks.
I would ask tonight that we keep our questions to a minimum because of the weather outside and safety issues. Some people
Sure. I'm
get
just curious
involved.
about the environmental services. What kind of programs are they learning there? What kind of jobs are they doing?
What's something new that we want to do? We've had HAZWOPER, which is Hazardous Waste Operators Emergency Response, in our Tidelines program. The one that we're really looking at adding is the CISL. You have to look that one up. Mm-hmm. It's sediment control. It's erosion and sediment control is the certification. So what you see on urban planning, urban development, construction sites is HAZWOPER is more for personal protection. CISL is more for environmental protection. Those would be two distinguishing pieces, but those are two of the certifications that we look to roll in. We're hoping, if we can get the funding piece, is to take on like a riparian zone, a salmon place, somewhere, probably on the tide flats. We're trying to work with the port to see if we can't get a level of funding to not only kids would have the certification, but how cool would it be if it led to some part-time employment to finish the summer off? If they got like 90 hours of paid employment to restore a salmon enhancement project. That's what we're envisioning with the city of Tacoma.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So I have a question also.
Yes. Let's go.
You said you have a resume. You have to have a resume as a senior. Mm-hmm. Who is that submitted to? How is it checked off?
Thank you. That's a great question. High School and Beyond plan is primarily coordinated through the career guidance specialists through the Career Center. It's worked in tandem with the school counselors, which we call guidance counselors, and through the administration. So the push out standards are the standards for each grade level. When seniors exit the last week or last 2 weeks of schools, that's one of the checkoff pieces. Much like part of that is the verified acceptance to the next institution, VANI, that we adopted as benchmarks in the district.
Yeah, thanks. Mm-hmm. And good report as usual.
Thank you, Director Winsko.
Thank you. Anybody else want to comment? Okay, great. Thank you again, John.
Okay.
Great. All right. Item 7, members of the public wishing to address the board. Do we have some tonight?
We have no cards turned in.
Okay, then we will move on. Item 8, consent agenda. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt.
I move adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments by members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the adoption of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, agenda is adopted 5-0. And give me a chance to scroll down here real quick. A lot of stuff on here tonight. Item 9, policy matters. There are none tonight. Item 10, quarterly financial update. Presentations on the financial health of the district will be made during regular board meetings on a quarterly basis. Monthly financial statements can be found on the district website at tacomaschools.org about finance. Curriculum and instruction, item number 11, there are none. And item number 11.1, approval of the Carl Perkins Carl Perkins 4 grant application with the district-wide plan and plan for annual program evaluation for career and technical education. Mrs. Pace, is that yours?
Yes, it is.
Great.
Thank you. The Assistant Superintendent for K-12 Learning and Support recommends that the Board of Directors approve the submission of the Carl Perkins 4 grant application with the district-wide plan and plan for annual program evaluation for the Career and Technical Education Department.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 11.1, approval of the Carl Perkins grant application with district-wide plan and plan for annual programs and evaluation for career and technical education. Are there any questions by members of the board? Director Hines.
Thank you. What is the total budget for CTE?
John?
John?
Get trip on that stuff.
I missed the question.
Total budget for CTE.
Total
John?
budget is right around $11 million typically.
So I appreciate the $300,000, and I look forward to supporting it tonight. What other funding sources, revenue sources, do we use to cover the $10.5 million?
So primarily is the state apportionment, which is based on student enrollments that come to the district. Of our grant money, the biggest one is the Carl Perkins that we depend on. We also received the in-demand grant from OSPI this year. We received a dual credit grant to expand our dual credit offerings. We received robotics grants to support our robotics teams. So we have a portfolio of small grants. We have in-demand grant as well. For aerospace development, advanced manufacturing, that's tied with the program at Lincoln High School. So those are primarily Teach 253 that you're familiar with. Our Teachers Academy is funded through the Professional Educator Standards Board. And I can get more information to you if you'd like to see some of the smaller pieces. But the big one, of course, is state apportionment, second biggest, Carl Perkins grant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of John? Director Cobb.
Can I just ask a follow-up on Director Hines' question? With federal funds often comes additional compliance requirements. Are there requirements that carry through across the implementation of all of our CTE programs that come with the receipt of the Perkins funds? And are any of those problematic from your perspective, or do they all enhance the implementation of programs?
Thank you for that comprehensive question. The answer is yes. There's a page and a half of assurances. I want to say there's probably about 25 or 26. I feel that the board of directors and our superintendent's office has positioned Tacoma in a way to be innovative in the state of Washington and for the nation. And I really say that from the heart. And I'm bird walking a little bit, but I see some of the legislation being proposed by our governor and by our state superintendent Reichel as far as what's called career launch, some of the things that you've seen there. So I feel we're well positioned to go beyond the compliance of assurances. I think that this board has really taught me is that leadership is about relentless, innovative, and nurturing, and not to settle for compliance and mark the boxes. So I think that collectively we're well positioned. So to answer your question, I think that as a district, especially in CT for our department, we go beyond compliance. So I feel comfortable signing those assurances and look for new opportunities to take the work to a higher level.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any further questions? Okay. All those in favor of adoption signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried 5-0. Business matters, item 12, none. Other business, item 13, none. Item 14, report to the board. Superintendent Santorno, I believe this is yours.
Yes, we have two items that are really a celebration. Someone's going to click for me. Thank you. The first one is really exciting to report about. It's the Partnering for a Stronger Tacoma, and this is definitely a result of efforts between administrators in the Tacoma Public Schools and also our Tacoma Teacher Education Association. They have been doing a great job together to work. And this all was initiated, if you look at the next slide, this was all initiated and started with a, hey, how do you like that, Angel? with the district administrators and the TEA representatives that came together at the Northwestern Conference. I wasn't there, but I certainly have heard positive results. And they really talked about focusing on some positive steps that would move us forward together, and that's what this short presentation is about. And so the things they came up with was, number one, the TEA and the administrators, so some of my cabinet, coming together and sharing a meal and having informal table discussions about the goal of opening collaboration. And secondly, really looking at future projects where we could work together and serve our community through a day of volunteering and inclusivity. And then finally, a joint listening team composed of the district and TEA leadership to visit schools and just kind of find out what it looks like out there. So if you look at the timeline, which is the next slide, you can't read that. So, the detail, I think you can get this up on the web. But number one, it started off with December 6th. We had our first soup with the superintendent, and everything was really good. And
doesn't like soup, just so you know.
And so we won't
tell.
We
Angel.
were able to sit together and just discuss different issues. It's a great way to sit at the table with with our teachers and with our members, and also with some of our cabinet to talk about issues. And then on January 15th, we did meet with the executive council and representatives from the different buildings to talk about. And it was a big turnout and lots of people there and excited to talk about what was going on and what it looked like. And then on January 10th, we had that community project. So if you slip to the next slide, even though it's kind of out, there we go. There is a group of TEA reps and our cabinet members and people from throughout the district coming together to do some. We thought they thought they were going to do trash pickup at Tetlow Park. I find out that they ended up trying to thin blackberry bushes. So I'm not sure that's what everybody signed up for. And you see me in my coat. I just have to go with a true confessions. I didn't do anything. I had the MLK presentation at the convention center, so I was just there to kind of egg them on and ask them, to go forward. So if we go back to the slide, we had another superintendent's soup with the superintendent on the 7th. Again, well attended and interesting questions and interesting issues that I am following up on and looking. And then we're getting ready to go into the listening sessions, which will be February through May, looking at different high schools and going to different places. We missed one because of the storm, but we'll figure out how to. Did you miss the one at Wilson? You did, didn't you? Yeah. Okay. And to look at joint goals and where we want to go. And then June and beyond, I love that, continuing to work to develop some understanding. So I am really excited about what we're doing there. I've asked Angel to come up and just say a few words to talk about some of the things that we're going together. Thanks so much, Angel, for agreeing to be here and to also to go with us on this endeavor. It's been great.
Well, my polished speech is someplace else tonight. But I'm excited. I think it's very important that we all come together. I think oftentimes there's the work that happens here and then the work that happens in the buildings. And I think when we can bring people together to talk with each other, we can get a better understanding of what the overall picture is so that we can all keep the goal in our mind of what are we doing for our kids. And the more we each understand what everybody else is doing and what different pieces of that are, I think the better outcomes we have for our students. So I'm excited for my members to get to know the cabinet and all of these folks better and have that familiarity where they can ask questions and try to understand what's going on. And I'm very excited for the cabinet and school board to come together and understand what's going on for people in the work buildings and what that feels like. So oftentimes we both hear very different sides of situations, and so as we work together, we can figure out where that common goal is and where the good for the students comes in. And so we're excited about this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Then sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Next one, 14.2, is the finance department update.
Oh,
Sorry, questions.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I really appreciate this. I think it's important work, and I would welcome an opportunity to be a part of those tours and listening sessions. So if you would extend the invitation to the board so that we can be out there to be a part of that. And hearing that the superintendent doesn't like soup, I would like to suggest we have donuts with the deputy. So I'm going to start hashtag donuts with the deputy to see if we can get some traction on that.
Thank you. I'd like to second that. I think I'm, other than Carl and Josh, the only person up here that's actually taught in elementary school in those days. And Angel, I can certainly echo from my time out in the district 10, 12 years ago. No one ever knew what was going on down here vis-a-vis what went on in the building and at the teacher level. And, we had some really good principals who fortunately were able to translate, for us. But I think would like to be a part of those listening things. And I think there's lots of stuff that goes around in the community that isn't really what happens, and then I'd like to have people really find out really what happens and what each one of our roles are. And people assume that we are all powerful up here. No, we're not, and Carl is not all powerful, nor is our chief deputy here who likes donuts. So we're going to give him a bad time. I understand he overdid with donuts today. So, but seriously, I really want to acknowledge what the union's doing. As you know, I was a member of the union for about 10 years, so I certainly know and respect what the union does. And I think it's an opportunity for us to build some big, big bridges to, for the things that are going to be coming towards us in the future. So thank you. Okay. So Superintendent Santorno, you have another one, I believe.
Sure. So it really is totally aligned because it's in service of us making sure we share information and making sure that our teachers and our cabinet knows about what's going on in the district. So I wanted to spend this time to share a little bit about what's going on with our financial department and give both our public and our teachers an opportunity to see what's, some of the things that the financial department has accomplished. We know it's been a huge year. It continues to be. In this first slide, it just goes over some of the financial awards. And, so what happens is you start to earn these every year and they become commonplace. And I think sometimes we stop and don't think what a great accomplishment they have been. So 24 years of receiving the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association. I don't know who they are, but that sounds pretty impressive. And then 24 consecutive years receiving the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting from ASBO, the Association of School Business Officials. 3 consecutive years of receiving the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the GFOA. And finally, 8 consecutive years of receiving the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award from NPI. And we've had Steve Dimmel here every year to kind of talk about him and his staff and what they're doing with that big part of our financial health. And then finally, the last slide is just we wanted to give you an overview of some of those financial health indicators. And I won't read them all to you, but number one is just really outlines that end of year unrestricted fund balance to total revenue, and that ratio is within the accepted ratio that you should have as a finance department. And for the last 9 years, it's been over the board policy, which established a 5% goal. So we've been over that every year. In 2014-15, the district increased the debt and the fiscal reserve from 4.5 to 5%. And I think Rosalind said that originally it was at 3, and then it went from 3 to 4.5 and 4.5 to 5. So that has really raised the levels of reserves that were on hand. Very important, I always hear about Moody's when we're getting ready to do a bond, but that the Moody's Investor Services has consistently assigned Tacoma a rating of AA2. I think it's capital A, small a2. I don't know. Which is high quality.
Carla, usually referred to as double A plus, but that's
double
okay.
A plus.
Sorry.
I knew that.
Old budget. Back here.
Which is high quality and exceeds the median rating of AAA. No, what? AA plus?
It's AA3.
AA3. Okay,
Yeah.
if it was AA2, it should have been AA3 for school districts nationally. And then lastly, that Tacoma Public Schools has had 6 consecutive audits conducted by the Washington State Auditor's Office, resulting in no findings. And anyone who's kind of been through that audit process knows that no findings is quite an accomplishment. So thank you to Rosalind and the work your staff has done. I know it's a team effort. Would you like to say anything?
I think that I do want to say just a couple of things. First, I would say that this is representative of a long-standing financial health, and my predecessor, Ron Hack, really laid a foundation that has put us in a good position, and so it would be ridiculous for me to try to take credit for any of what he put in place. And I think that it's also extremely representative of both the long-term leadership of the superintendent and the school board. You've set policies and you've held expectations for us to not only participate in these awards, but continue participating in these awards and setting policy and guidelines on what the expectations are about how we maintain our financial health, and that the investor ratings, the ratings agencies recognize that, and that's what you're seeing when we get our good bond ratings. So I say that in addition to that is the incredible team that I have, well capable, dedicated and focused individuals on making sure that we have a strong financial health, asking the right questions about, does this make sense? Why are we doing this? And so I thank them. It's been great to be here, and I thank all of you for all of your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all.
Okay, moving on.
Kind of had a quick question.
Oh, sure.
Rosalind, with respect to Moody's, what sort of metrics or data do they evaluate in order to get a rating?
Why am I laughing?
So they're probably watching right now. Honestly, they do spend a lot of time investigating. They have a person who's responsible for our account, and they watch and monitor what we're doing. They read our newspapers. They track our financial statements. They're looking at our enrollment. They're looking at our fund balance usage. They're looking at, so when they see articles in the newspaper about any kind of controversy going on with the state or within the district, they talk to us about that. When we have rating agency meetings, when we're preparing to go out for bonds, it's a comprehensive conversation, and they've gone through all of the details of our financial situation, and they're looking to make sure that we have the ability to continue on as a going concern. So a positive rating for them is really the best report card that we can get as an agency.
All right, thank you.
In fact, a AA+ is really good for an agency or an organization like ours, which doesn't really have the ability to raise money other than through levies and things like that. So when we continue to pass levies and maintain, the only reason I know all this stuff is because in 1973, the state passed the largest bond issue in its history called Washington Futures, and somehow a young assistant director at the Office of Financial Management got stuck with oversight on that, so I learned more about Moody's and Standard & Poor's. But even when you're going through tough times, if you are able to maintain certain standards of financial progress, we were in positions where we were very serious. It was the Boeing bust time, and we maintained a AA+ and a AAA+ rate and a AAA rating during that period of time. So they're more concerned about your financial stability over the long run, and are you making appropriate decisions? And I know one of the things that I asked for when I first came on the board was to have that debt service raised to, or not the debt service, but the reserves raised to that 5.0, that we maintain that, because that shows that you are really concerned about your fiscal stability when you maintain a decent reserve. And it doesn't mean it has to be 10 or 20 or whatever, but what it says is that we are ready for tough times if we have to go through them. So when you look at these numbers compared to other school districts, it's very rare for school districts to receive AA+ and AAA or 3 or AA, triple, the 3, which is a new rating from when I was around. But they used to call it a AAA- in those days, so you remember those, how they did that. But one of the things that government fiscal people look at always, the first thing they're going to look at is what they call the financial stability. And what that entails is, do we pay our bills on time? Do we have things in, almost like what we go through as adults when we were looking to buy houses and things like that. Can we afford it? Can we maintain our debt service? All those kinds of things. So what this says is that this school district is healthy in terms of all of the things that the bond rating people look at, and it means that we're not going to be going under at any point in time, in their opinion. And that what we always look at in government finance right away is ask what is the bond rating for this institution, whether it's state or federal or school districts or water districts or whatever, they have the ability to sustain beyond a certain period of time. So that's, for me, having been in the budget arena for a long time, well over 40 years, is that when the first thing I asked, I think, was what was our bond rating when I got on the board, because I had no idea. It's not something that you run around and talk about every board meeting, because quite frankly, it would probably put everybody to sleep. But in terms of those of us up here in responsibility, I think that, and this is my personal opinion, but I've worked with an awful lot of people over my career in budget and finance and including people in the state auditor's office and stuff. And I'll tell you one thing, Rosalind Medina is one of the smartest and brightest people that I've ever had the privilege to do business with and to work with. And I think it's been reflected in the manner of way in which we've gotten through some tight times in this school district. So Rosalind, from me to you, thank you. Okay, board comments and reports. So partly we went through some things last spring about how we wanted to do some, or when we looked at our boards and goals reports over this summer, and we decided that when we did, it's in our stuff, if you can go back and read it, is that we'll do committee reports, community events, and updates and comments. So Andrea, do you want to lead this off because you were involved in helping that?
Yes, but I don't have a report tonight.
All right.
These items.
Okay, Enrique, Dr. Leon.
Sure. So I just got back from a trip to Puerto Rico. I was doing some education of some doctors down there, and got to teach medical students, residents, and physicians. Also got to go to some of the schools and just appreciate. I know how strong our system is here. They were ravaged by the hurricane, of course, and even before the hurricane, though, their education system just has a lot of places where it doesn't compare as well to ours. So it was very impressive to see. And sad to see how they need some more help in that. But our system is so very strong here for our students. The second thing is as many of you probably know, it's the 1-year anniversary of the murders in Parkland, Florida last year. So in that light, we have a resource that the board is going to be discussing along with superintendent for gun injury prevention and suicide prevention. While mass murders get a lot of attention, the second leading cause of death of high school children is suicide, and a vast majority of those are done with guns. So there's a physician that has epidemiological work and is willing to come and teach and do some classes for some of our leaders in our schools. And as the board and the superintendent will decide what the right timing is for that, but probably not till maybe April, later in the spring, if possible. So it's a great resource we have available to us. So.
Thank you. Dr. Winskill?
I went to a great event at Lincoln a few weeks ago where the librarian had an author who talked about food and cultural eating habits, and was well attended with about 200 students after school who stayed for it in the auditorium. It was really good. And the only other thing I want to talk about, we missed 4 days, of course, with the snow. So I don't know, I don't need an answer tonight because I'm sure you don't have an answer, but I've had a call from one high school student at least saying, can we make this up on Saturdays or other ways rather than continuing to go in the summer because people have so many things planned. So I don't know when a decision will be made about that.
So we're working on it now. We did get a letter from Chris Reichdahl, the office, the superintendent of the state school district, offering, because Governor Inslee declared a state of emergency, that we have the opportunity to apply for some waivers to have the total days off. So we're looking at that, and we'll, I figure in maybe in the future, next couple of weeks, 3 weeks, we'll be able to figure out what the school days look like. We have no, I don't have any interest in having everybody. Director Hines has told us kids that they have to go to the 4th of July.
Yes.
We have no
Setting expectations.
we have no intention of making students go any longer than we absolutely have to. So we'll use the information from that waiver. There's also a result a obligation that we make our, is it 1,020 hours, Tony? 1,027 hours in order to, so we have to make that before we can take advantage of the waiver. So we're looking at that. As soon as we have analyzed the data, we'll make decisions about the school day. But thank you. We're hearing that.
Okay, Director Hines?
Well, let me start by saying I'm not aware that the deputy superintendent had a donut issue today, so that would be quite a coincidence if that occurred. And perhaps I will withdraw my recommendation of donuts with the deputy. We had an opportunity to meet last week with the superintendent, the deputy superintendent, and I, with officials from the city of Tacoma and with Councilwoman Ushka to discuss the access to school playgrounds and fields. I think it was a very productive meeting. It's an issue we've talked about from the dais over the last few months. And I'm excited because we have a plan to also include metro parks and to come up with some consistent signage around operation to calibrate expectation and make certain the level of access and service delivery is equal throughout the city. So I appreciate it's taken a little bit longer than I had hoped. But I am confident with the outcome of the discussion last week that I think this issue will be resolved quickly moving forward.
Thank you. Thanks for being a part of that.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I have no report tonight. Moving on. Oh, sorry, Hanukkah, I forgot you.
It's
I
okay.
didn't mean to. I had you on my mind, and then I sort of looked down and go ahead, sweetie. Thank you.
So I just wanted to acknowledge Tacoma basketball. We have some really great teams, high school teams in Tacoma, and Foss is on track to go to state for SPSL 2A. I don't think we know which seed yet, but that's exciting. And then spring musicals are coming up too, and Foss is in rehearsal for Seussical, which I'm in. And then the other high schools have some good ones as well, like Stadium is doing Fiddler on the Roof. And then I was also wondering about the snow days, especially for seniors, because we still want to graduate on time, and I know we have to fulfill that requirement. So I think it'd be great if we could have the waiver. That's a possibility, because I don't want to come to school on Saturdays.
So what's your role in Seussical?
What?
What's your role in Seussical?
I'm the sour kangaroo.
Awesome.
That's a great play, by the way.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll all have to try to get out and watch you. I've already seen you from the Tacoma Musical Playhouse. So I'll be really anxious to get over to school and see what's going on. Okay. Announcement of future board meetings. Thursday, February 21st, 2019. 6 o'clock study session, and that will be at Mount Tacoma High School, and I will explain what that will be. We're going to, this year we decided to have listening tours around the district to get information on what the public thinks that our budget should look like for next year. And so what we're going to do is on that evening, it will just be us listening and no questions. We're just taking, like the legislature does, testimony, as they call it, and what people thinking and what they're feeling. And then we have another one, we'll see how well that goes, and we have another one scheduled for, or we are going to schedule it for Wilson in March, I believe. Is that correct, Superintendent?
Correct.
Okay. So that will simply be a meeting where I will just kick it off with an overview of what we're going to have and what we're going to do, and then Rosalind will give an overview of the budget, and then we will open it up for 45 minutes for 2-minute testimony for people to come up and tell us what they would like to see or not see, and then we'll just move on from that. One thing I've wanted to do for quite a while since I got on the school board was to take the school board out in the community, and this gives us a little bit of a chance to do that, for the people to have the opportunity to see who we are, number one, other than just on television, and for us to listen and get some good advice perhaps on what we should do in the budget and not do, and what people think are the priorities for the budget. So that will be on the 21st at Mount Tacoma at 6 o'clock. And then on Saturday, February 23rd, 2019 at 8:30 a.m. board retreat, Graduate Tacoma office, which is right up the street at 1919 South 9th Street here in Tacoma. And then on the 28th of February at 6 o'clock, we'll have our regular business meeting here at Central School. I can get this to, boy, that tells how old I am. The Central Administration Building. I think as long as I've lived here in this city, it will always be Central School to me and most of the people that I know who grew up here. All right, we have not having an executive session tonight, so with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. You know, that bond stuff is the most convoluted crap. I mean, here the state's about to go bankrupt. Well, it did if you go through all of their, what we were looking at, starting, all their criteria, but.
You gonna get it back?
No.
It's gone, huh? Okay. I'm gonna see this. Where's the surgical player? I'm gonna go to that.